Hello friends, and welcome back to the channel, where we delve into the mind of a villain. In this entry, we'll be taking a look at General Zod, the villain in the first DCEU movie, Man of Steel. Ruthless, prideful, and genocidal, General Zod was a tragic villain who, in his own eyes, saw himself as the hero and savior of his people. His mission to revive an extinct Krypton, while seemingly noble, presents a moral hurdle which serves as the main conflict of the movie. Zod's motivation in the film is as clear as can be. In his own words, "Every action I take, no matter how violent or how cruel, is for the greater good of my people." Zod lives and breathes Krypton. It is the fate of his planet over all else. Unfortunately, this sweeping statement of greater good was used by Zod to justify his evil deeds. It is not Zod's purpose that is in error, but rather the methods and means which he chooses to achieve that purpose that are morally questionable. This is largely what makes him a sympathetic villain. His propensity to use violence is seen when he stages a coup to usurp the Kryptonian Council's authority, and even executing an unarmed member on the spot. He then plays God when he mentions his plan to Jor-El about severing the degenerative bloodlines to which Jor-El disapproves of. In Zod's own eyes, he is the end-all, be-all. Zod is a character that is frequently given to anger and its destructive effects, being prone to outbursts of rage. We see this when he threatens Laura-El and coincidentally later Martha, both mothers of Kal-El/Clark. And while Zod could have taken Jor-El into custody again, he chose to kill his old friend out of rage, even while he was completely distracted and off guard. But of course, Zod's primary conflict with Kal-El and the main source of tension in the movie is the fact that he was willing to commit mass genocide and wipe out all humans in his attempt to rebuild Krypton. Zod never came to Earth with peaceful intentions. Upon arrival, his broadcast to Earth was that of a threat, with his hostility displayed when he tells Earth to surrender Kal-El to him or suffer the consequences. Perhaps it's somewhat admirable that Zod is a straight shooter, never sugarcoating the facts but telling it as it is. He blatantly tells Kal-El of the cost of Krypton's rebirth and tells him the plain truth that he killed his father. And while Zod justifies it with the greater good of Krypton, he is still capable of experiencing some remorse. He tells Kal-El that not a day goes by that Jor-El's death doesn't haunt him. Later in the film, he still refers to Jor-El as an old friend that he's going to pay respects to before he heads to the scout ship. And after deleting Jor-El's consciousness from the ship, there is what appears to be a noticeable tinge of sadness on his face. Zod has no issue with the massive death and destruction that would occur while restoring Krypton on Earth. This is for several reasons, the first of which is his priority of Krypton over all else, as we've covered. Secondly, he views humans as inferior and expendable. This is implied towards the end of the film, when he labels Earth a squalor in his monologue to Kal-El in this scene. It is not much different from how we as humans have little regard for other species in our quest for expansion. But despite these, there is still a certain flaw and selfishness to Zod's approach. The most obvious one being that he could have considered the possibility of terraforming another planet instead, an unpopulated one at that. And even if that were not possible, and Earth is the only viable option, there also exists the option of coexistence, which is actually what Jor-El's consciousness was advocating to Zod in their final scene in the movie. In fact, the film reveals that this was the reason why Jor-El sent his son to Earth, so that he could learn to be a human first and then serve as a bridge between the two races. Zod outrightly rejects this notion of coexistence. In his eyes, sparing the human race is not worth the years of suffering that the Kryptonians would have to undergo in adapting to Earth's atmosphere, as he mentions in this scene. But even if Zod were to coexist with humans, he would most likely end up ruling over them as a tyrant and making them his subjugates. But despite his flaws, Zod remains a sympathetic and tragic villain. He was programmed to be a warrior and to protect Krypton as part of his encoded genetic makeup. In his own words, "I exist only to protect Krypton. That is the sole purpose for which I was born. Perhaps being diplomatic and peaceable are traits that he can never possess. You could go so far as to say that he may not even have free will, which is one of the themes explored in the film. If that is true, then his choice of actions are no more despicable than a carnivore having to kill to eat. Kal-El, on the other hand, has free will and can forge his own destiny, which is heresy to Zod. Both fathers, Jor-El and Jonathan Kent, have instilled in him that he can make his own choices. Kal-El is ultimately a hero for choosing to save the humans instead of his own race. But in Zod's eyes, Kal-El is the villain who stands opposed to his purpose. He cannot understand why he would choose Earth over his own planet. In one of his most sympathetic moments, he pleads with Kal-El not to destroy the ship, as destroying it would destroy Krypton for good. In Zod's eyes, he is the hero saving his people from extinction. It's a noble cause that we can at least understand and empathize with. And at the end, when his purpose was taken away from him, Zod has nothing to live for. Without Krypton, his life is meaningless and empty. His goal becomes to destroy as many lives as possible out of spite for Kal-El, which left him no choice but to end Zod's life. So what do you think of General Zod, folks? Is he the best DCEU villain we've had so far? Let me know in the comments, along with any other characters you'd like to see. Thanks for watching, folks. If you like this video, subscribe to see more entries like these, and you can check out other characters covered here.